are on police bond. And it is based on that report that an action was taken. If you heard very well how the minister was explaining.
Much obliged, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable, we have a case of children who were registered at that time in primary, and now they're in secondary, but up to now they don't have their NIN numbers. May we get an update from the minister on the plan to have these children helped? And then we have also students who had problems with their names and dates of birth, and they applied it to NIRA. That time they were supposed to get the current IDs that we are having, but they were not successful. Could we have information from the minister on the way the ministry is trying to see how to help that category of the students and other people who had mistakes in their IDs that they have at the moment? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The clarification that I'm seeking from the minister concerns the issue of people who had errors, who made errors in their IDs. The minister stated that there are cases where the errors were made by the staff, the NIRA staff, and there are errors that were made by the applicant. The clarification I'm seeking is, how are you able to determine which error was done by who, either the applicant or the NIRA? Because, for example, I have a relative, he's Masaba, but they spelled it as Masabo. Instead of A, they put an O in the name, but he was made or forced to pay that money in order to change these names. So I want to know how they're able to determine, because as far as I know, everyone who is trying to change any detail on their national ID is being forced or is being made to pay this money, which is quite huge.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
I'll start with the last one. There are some unscrupulous people who change their dates of birth, especially civil servants, just because they don't want to retire. That's one deliberate mistake we note in the exercise of registration. And then there are people who, today they write their parents are A, then tomorrow they say they are B. Really, that one cannot be NIRA staff. So those are examples of the mistakes of the applicants. But for the names, that one I think it's most likely by NIRA staff, honorable member. So we shall correct that one. And then, yes, Honorable Wakabulin, just a minute, I wanted to, okay, Honorable.
Minister, you become a speaker. Can you finish what you're supposed to? Honorable
Thanks very much, Right Honorable
Speaker. First wait. Let him first respond to what was asked, then you come in.
Honorable.
You just sit near here.
Honorable Christine talked about, but the Right Honorable Speaker clarified that one. On those, he wanted confirmation of termination. I can produce it. But they were terminated because administratively we had to take action. Once a complaint is raised, even without concrete evidence, I think it's best that somebody stands aside, even as investigations go on. Registration of children in primary schools, their names were issued, but most cards are not collected. We have a heap of cards, and I think we shall update the public on this subject, and also the subject of helping students who made errors. This is for Honorable Christine. Last, I want to answer Honorable Amera. I never clarified. Citizenship never expires, and evidence of citizenship is the NIN. Even with the tenure for the ID, the citizenship of a person doesn't expire. I want to thank you, Right Honorable members.
Honorable Kapulindi has some clarification.
Honorable Serung also, ma'am, with your permission, wanted to ask.
Yeah, thanks very much, Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Minister. I raising out of his question that how do you tell that the error was made by the staff or the applicant? I escorted one friend to NIRA, claiming that they had made a mistake so that he could not pay the 200. They went into their data and proved that it was him who had made a mistake. So they have those features that they capture.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, the question is, how did you determine whether the error was made by the NERA staff or by the person who filled the forms? Because if it was made by the NERA staff, why are you making them to pay the money?
Right Honorable Speaker, it depends on the nature of the error. Sometimes it's apparent on the record, on the surface.
Could be a typo error. Masaba, Masabo.
Those ones most likely are by NERA staff, Right Honorable Speaker.
So that's what he was saying, that the person was still made to pay the money. Anyway.
That was unfortunate for...
It is an agreed position. It is a position of government that registration is for free. Where there is an error that is made, a district or wherever the registration is taking place cannot be able to correct the errors. All the errors will be corrected at headquarters, and because they are the only ones who have the access rights for them to be able to correct those errors. And then there is a toll-free number that should be used by the public to ensure that we have a corruption-free system where people are extorted, where they extort money from, and the public is urged to report any attempts of extortion by either NERA staff or those who claim to be agents of NERA or anybody else, and an action will be taken. Next.
Item 4 on the order paper. Motion for adoption of the report of the Committee on Government Assurances and Implementation on the status of the assurance to fully operationalize newly created cities.
Honourable members, you recall that in April 2020, Parliament approved the creation of 15 new cities, which staggered with the staggered timelines for commencement of 7 cities in July 2020 and others between 2021 and 2023. To date, only 10 cities out of the 15 cities have been operationalized. The Committee of Government Assurance and Implementation has inquired into this matter, and they are ready to report. And pursuant to Rule 1854, I will invite the chairperson of the committee to give us his report on this. And I'm also happy to note that the minister is around to respond to whatever is being raised.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the report of the Committee of the Government Assurance and Implementation on the status of the assurance to fully operationalize newly created cities. I beg to lay the report and the minutes they are attached.
Please lay.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to present the report of the Committee of the Government Assurance and the Implementation on the status of the Government Assurance to fully operationalize the cities. Right Honorable Speaker, the report is available, but I'm asking to present a summary of this report. The honorable members, I beg they will read.
Please go ahead and give us a summary.
Right Honorable Speaker, our scope covered 10 areas, which I'm going to go through in a summary form. We looked at the legal and the regulatory framework of these cities. On the 28th of April 2020, the Minister of Local Government, Honorable Raphael Magezi, tabled a motion seeking Parliament approval of the proposal to create new districts, new cities, it should have been new cities, which Parliament approved on the 28th of April 2020. The new cities were to be operationalized in clusters beginning 1st July 2020 to July 2023, with Jinja, Mbalala, Gulu, Mbale, Arua, Fort Portal, and Masaka, taking effect with the new financial year 2020-2021. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to go to the observations and recommendations. On the legal and the regulatory framework, the committee observed that despite that the Attorney General provided his opinion, the Minister failed to present regulations to address contradictions between cities and districts. The regulations are intended to streamline the operation of the Local Government Act, Section 175.1. Section 175.1 requires the minister to make regulation for effecting the provision of the Act. Number 2, whereas the creation of the new cities does not violate any provision of the Constitution of Uganda, their management and administration needs to be harmonized. The committee recommends that the government should introduce appropriate bill to govern cities in their uniqueness in operation, structure, and service delivery. In alternative, the government should amend the Local Government Act to incorporate administrative and governance legal frameworks for cities. The Minister of Local Government should come up with regulations to govern on the governance of cities and table them before Parliament within 3 months from the time of this report is adopted. Number 2, we looked at the physical development plans of these cities. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister of Local Government classifies gazetted cities, municipalities, town councils as urban areas. The Local Government Act, Cap 243, empowers the ministry to declare an area urban if it satisfies the following criteria. 1, has a minimum of 25,000 people for a town council, 100,000 people for municipality, 500,000 people for a city. B, has a master plan for land use. C, has available water resource and can meet the cost of providing services. D,
Is it a resource or sources?
sources. D, preparation of urban physical plans. Right Honorable Speaker, again allow me to go to the observations. The committee observed that whereas the cities have approved physical plans, developments are not guided by those plans. The ministry has not yet provided funding for new cities to develop physical development plans. For those that have plans, funding was provided by development partners. The majority of the residents in these new cities live in unplanned areas and as a result experience development problems that put more strain on the already existing infrastructure. According to the Building Control Act, Section 28(3), the chairperson for the Planning and Development Committee of the District Council shall be the chairperson of the District Building Committee. Subsection 5 provides that the chairperson of the Urban Planning and Development Committee of the Urban Council shall be the chairperson of the Urban Building Committee. Contrary to the above, the committee established that in most of the cities, building plans were considered and approved by city building committees chaired by the Secretary of Works. The committee was informed that the above irregularity was as a result of fraud and corruption. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development should ensure that all cities are facilitated to develop their respective physical development plans within the next 2 financial years. The Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development and the Ministry of Local Government should ensure that all city developments adhere to the approved physical plans. The ministry should play its oversight role to ensure that the building control committees in all cities comply with the provisions of the Act. Cities that have not gazetted their intended development plans should do so and consider people's concern or opinions over the same. The chairperson of the Urban Planning Committee should be the officer to chair the city building control committees instead of secretaries of works as provided by the Building Control Act. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee considered the staffing and recruitments of these cities. Again, I want to go straight to the observations. The committee observed that the staff structure of cities, which was approved by Cabinet in January 2022 and adopted by the respective city councils, has never been filled, which means cities are operating with less than half of the required staff. I beg the members to refer to Table 1 and see the recruitment levels of each city. Number 2, all affected cities suffered from a shortage of staff due to the ban on recruitment by public service, despite the variability of the wage. The current position by the Ministry of Public Service is that the ban applies only to the recruitment on replacement, a situation that has greatly affected staffing levels in all cities and mother districts. The committee recommends that the government should ensure the implementation of the approved human resource structure for cities and lift the ban on recruitment. Number 2, the committee recommends that the government should provide an adequate budget for both the new cities and the parent districts to remedy the shortage of staff in the financial year 2024-2025. That was then when the committee made the report. Number 3, the committee recommends that the government should fast track the Salary Review Commission in local governments. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee considered asset sharing between the cities and the mother districts. And the committee observed that the Ministry of Local Government has never issued any guidelines to facilitate the smooth operationalization of the new cities in question, including asset sharing. Number 2, the committee observed that the absence of guidelines has led to hostilities between the new cities and the parent districts. In some instances, local officials in the parent districts have taken advantage of the vacuum to sell off existing public assets, especially land. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Local Government should lay before Parliament guidelines for asset sharing between the new cities and parent districts within 30 days. Number 2, the committee recommends that the Inspector General of Government, IGG, should carry out an investigation into all the alleged fraudulent transactions of assets in the newly established cities, report to Parliament within 3 months, and prosecute the culprits. The committee recommends that the sale of public assets, including land, be halted until the Minister of Local Government lays before Parliament the guidelines on asset sharing between cities and the parent districts. Right Honorable Speaker, we also considered the road equipment for these new cities. The committee observed that lack of road equipment has affected cities' efforts to maintain already dilapidated roads, mainly because they have to incur mechanical repair costs for the road construction equipment, most of which was already grounded when the cities were still under municipal status. The committee recommends that, 1, the government provides funding for the procurement of durable road equipment and improves on the existing equipment for all the new cities. The equipment, among others, should empower cities to construct paved roads in the financial year 2024-2025. That's when we wrote the report. The committee recommends, 2, that the Ministry of Works should adequately equip regional mechanical workshops to prevent the high cost of transport and delayed maintenance works. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the committee also looked at the statutory bodies. And the committee observed that although the Ministry of Local Government enabled cities to establish required statutory bodies, these were not well facilitated to enable them to effectively execute their mandate. The committee recommends that the government should provide adequate funding to enable statutory bodies in the cities to execute their mandate. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee also looked at the relocation of new district headquarters. And the committee observed that the government had neither supported the district local governments to relocate to new headquarters, nor facilitated cities to set up their new offices. Number 2, the committee observed that there is no law that requires that a district headquarters must be constructed in a place recognized as a town. Paragraph 2 of the 3rd schedule of the Local Government Act only requires such a declaration of town to be made after construction of the district headquarters. The committee observed that in some cities visited, the mother districts were constructing premises at the sub-county headquarters, implying that the town council offices needed relocation as land that housed them had been taken over. The committee recommended that the government should implement its early commitment of equal startup funding for all the mother districts. That was by then. Number 2, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Local Government should gazette the new town council locations that already house the new district headquarters within 45 days from the date of the adoption of this report by Parliament. I know that this recommendation may have been overtaken. Right Honorable, the committee recommends that the government should allocate funds to enable both the new cities and the mother districts to establish new infrastructure. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee also looked at office space and accommodation for these new cities. And the committee observed that the majority of staff for the new cities still occupy and use the office space for the old municipalities, which is not sufficient for their smooth operation. The committee recommends that the government should provide adequate funding to mother districts to construct and furnish new district headquarters as a priority in 2024-2025. The government should introduce a legal framework to streamline and guide both mother districts and the new cities in asset sharing and relocation and infrastructure. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee also looked at remuneration of political leaders in the new cities. And the committee observed that Regulation 4 of the first schedule of the Local Government Act, cities with high local revenue will have more funds to spend on emoluments of their officials as compared to those with less revenue, which not only creates discrepancies in payments to the public servants, but also creates room for abuse of funds in a disguise of emoluments. The committee observed that discrepancies in emoluments and allowances cause a decline in morale and create unnecessary competition for jobs within high revenue generating local governments and low level generating local governments, thus attracting an environment of corruption. The committee recommends that the government should introduce a bill that will govern the operation of cities. The committee recommends that the government should amend the Local Government Act and any other relevant laws that govern a city or urban area to harmonize the salary and emoluments of staff and political leaders regardless of revenues generated. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee looked at the funding of the cities. And the committee observed that the process of creating cities was done without due consideration of the criteria laid out in the Local Government Act, Cap 243. The committee observed that in the process of creating these cities, some rural sub-counties were annexed to the existing municipalities without putting into consideration several critical issues about the future growth and development of the cities. The committee observed that the government has failed to fund cities as per the status. The committee recommends that the government should ensure adequate and sustainable funding to the newly created cities in the subsequent financial years before the remaining 5 cities take effect, that is Entebbe, Moroto, Nakasongola, Kabale, and Wakiso, to enable them to meet the demands and expectations of a city status. The committee recommends that the government should be transparent with Parliament and the public, stating whether it can fully implement this commitment. General observation. The Committee on the Government Assurance and Implementation did its assessment and found gaps in the operationalization of the 10